I'd like to welcome you to Beyond the Skin with Bill Bellott and Matt Dickinson. This is our first episode. Welcome, Matt. What are we going to talk about today?
Thanks, Bill. Today, what I really wanted to do is to kick off the overall show of the big question. When are you no longer human? How
Oh,
far is
boy.
too far? What is too far?
What
When are
is
you
too
going to
far,
be,
really?
if we're going to start talking about beyond the skin, what about when we start to replace components of the body? What happens if we just have our head left? Are we a robot or are we still human?
What if we transfer our consciousness from our human body into a robotic body? It may not be possible today, but science fiction talks about it all the time. Is that too far?
That's the real question. Is it? Is
Yeah,
it too far?
Yeah, so let's think. What happens today. When people lose an arm or a limb or have some sort of um, problem with their body, they get replacements all the time. Prosthetics, even an artificial heart. How does that play into how human you are?
Yeah, it's a good point because you get to a position of asking some of them very similar questions. So recently, I got into a long discussion with my significant other. We talked about the idea of if you have a robot. Now let's just play with me on this.
Yep,
Let's say we
yep,
have a robot.
yep.
This robot wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm alive," but it's a robot that's been designed, but it says, "I am alive."
Sure.
Should the robot have ethics? Should it have a right to be able to do things? Do you have a right to turn that robot off
Ah,
because you built it?
So you've gone to the classic question in Star Trek, which is Commander Data a sentient being or is he just a robot slash android? And
Exactly.
that has been a thorny question for a long time. And as we have more and more advanced robots who have AI and other types of algorithms in them, it becomes a even more pressing issue of today of like, what are the ethics around this? And when is it a new species that we're dealing with? And, what we were kind of talking about to begin with, are we changing ourselves by adding, let's say, robotic or electronic components to ourselves into another species?
Exactly. And that's really where this turns onto the other hand of this. Let's say, for argument's sake, me or you were super badly injured.
Yes.
Then say, for argument's sake, you've got to transfer just our brain into that robot. If the robot doesn't deserve ethics and somebody has the right to turn it off, just because there's a human brain in it, does that make it human? Is it cybernetic? And to a level of that, and then that's where we get onto that muddy water of, where do we actually sit in this case? Because that pushes nicely into exoskeletons.
Well, we had that dilemma into 1970s, and there was a very famous TV show about that dilemma. It was called The $6 Million Man. Steve Austin, astronaut, was going into space, has a horrible accident, crashes, burned, and he is going to die. But they have the technology and
To rebuild him.
to rebuild him, and they rebuild him with, and he's the first bionic man. And is he? I guess the question is: he still a man?
Mm. That is the true, real question with that. Because we now sit ourselves in a present position where if we take exoskeletons, for example, now let's say we move ourselves a little bit forward and then let's think of everybody's seen Elysium. I've
Sure.
seen Elysium.
Yes.
Love the movie.
Right.
But it presents an exoskeleton which is intrinsically fused to his spine, his bone,
Right.
in that process. Now, so this is now an extension of him. My question is he wearing an exoskeleton? Or is he a new creature because he's got this exoskeleton fused to his body?
Right. Right. I guess the question is does the that comes into my mind is does the exoskeleton stay on him forever? And if it is a part of him and he's going to wear that forever because it's now, embedded in his spine, then it is a part of him. Versus what we have today. So in the medical field, you have these things called external fixators. So if you have a very,
Mhm.
very horrible injury where your bones need to be aligned and they have to put something through your skin and it protrudes through the skin and it's used to fixate or align the bones so they can heal,
Yeah.
that's meant to be there for a temporary period of time and then it comes out. Same thing as a halo type device. You've seen pictures of people wear those.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Temporary. The Elysium one, it was never clear, at least to me in the movie, whether this was, hey, he did this to achieve some goals, but he's going to remove it. It was never clear whether this is like permanent, or maybe it was. I mean, it was stuck into his spine, so that's kind of that seems like it could be a bit permanent there.
Yeah.
But how? I guess the thing in my mind is, does it change who he is? Does it change? Besides his capabilities, does it change who he is as a human? Because that's really what you're getting to with adding technology, right?
Exactly. So if we just take it away from the science fiction, my angle of this is that if we pull it right back from Elysium and so forth, and then started to consider things like pacemakers,
right,
or if we considered hip replacements, these don't change that person from being a human. But my question is if we were to start replacing, for, if you will, a lack of better words, a tune-up on our bodies,
right?
Surely this is where we start to step into that area where it's a bit of a hazy area of why, how far is too far?
Right, and I think that's a very valid point in that there's a difference between a medical need in order to replace or restore a function you had, even if that restoration may give you some augmentation, versus I won't say arbitrary, but a purposeful decision that, hey, I'm going to add this to myself. So in a sense, biological hacking. So you're going to add this, right? I'm going to add this to myself because I want this increased capability over what I can normally do right now.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, because I mean, the issue is your sci-fi movies really do push that bigger question,
right.
And I think that can often distort what people actually can really imagine, can expect from things. So, just reeling it back a little bit and just thinking about the use of wearable technologies, for example. It gets newer generations that start to put these newer technologies on and say, well, why can't I go quicker? Why can't I run fast? Why does my watch run out? And I think they lose the idea and the pure concept of that battery technology. But without that and with that approach for future tech, it leaves such an interesting area.
Yeah, and it gets down to real science and real engineering type issues that have been around almost forever, which is with exoskeletons, wearables, all of these types of things, even these bionics that we're talking about that may seem far-fetched. Where does the power come from?
Exactly.
You can go crazy with all sorts of advanced materials, and you can talk about how I can marry this biomaterial with human tissue, and that would be amazing and all that. However, it always gets down to, if you want this thing to function beyond just sit there, it needs some sort of power. And is that power source something it comes with, or is it something where it comes from your body? All of those things get to be the issue. That was never addressed in the original TV show, $6 Million Man. It's like, okay, he can run 60 miles per hour with these bionic legs and stuff, but where's that power coming from? So you got, have they figured out how to put a small nuclear reactor in him? Because I don't know where else is he getting that power from, right?
I mean, that was one of the key things of. I love a good nerdy chat. That was one of the key things of RoboCop.
Yes.
So
Where's the power?
80s. So in the 80s, you've got a man who's injured. He then is made into a robot, and it's the battle between humanity and also the artificial build of the machine behind him. And he's treated like a product.
Right.
And that's really interesting because you think of somebody who is, as they say in the movies, he's legally dead, so he can be owned by somebody else.
Right.
And then that approach towards it introduces such an interesting element of the ethical side. But the one thing I always loved about the idea of Robocop is he always had to sit in a chair. Now, the nerdy side of me prays that they did this for the right reasons, but it looks like he's wireless charging.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you go even further back in history, and you look at Shelley's Frankenstein novel, because that's surely that same kind of dilemma. You've animated dead tissue. Is it alive? Is it still dead? And what kind of rights does it have? You know?
Exactly. And if we get to that key position, so if we stay on that track with that, if we stay to that position, we're now in a position where we've got our brains. Now, let's say we've got some type of way of keeping that brain completely useful. We've got it in a special juice, let's say.
Right.
But this is inside of that robotic structure. If you don't have the ethics that complements why that robot should have the right to do something, is the robot owned? Are you a product?
Right. And, the question gets to be is, how do you know there's a brain in there? How do you know it's not just algorithms and the robot says it has somebody's brains in it? How do you know the robot isn't just saying, oh, I'm alive, because it's been programmed to say I'm alive?
My significant other said the exact same thing. How do we know what we're listening to is that brain talking?
Right.
And not series of algorithmic responses. But my ultimate response with this will always be, if you have a machine that says I'm alive, and let's say it has feelings, so it has full conception of feelings, and if it's in that position, I still don't believe we have the right to turn it off, because it can think and feel.
Now hold on here. You as an engineer talking about feelings, I think maybe you've gone outside of your area of expertise here.
I'm just saying.
As an engineer myself, I'm like, wait a minute, we're going to talk about feelings? How do I measure that, Matt?
Let's say it can. I think one of the most famous movies. I can't think which movie it was. It may have been AI.
Sure.
Which talks about David as being a child. He's a child, a machine that's designed as a child.
Right.
And as it's going through the hundreds of years of its existence, the process of it understanding the emotion of love. And that's perspective of who has the right to turn him on and off. Yeah, if it can perceive this, do you have the right to turn it on and off? Are you not going back to some very, very iffy grounds of rights?
Yeah, but here's the other area. What if you need to turn it off?
Oh yeah, you mean for that maintenance? Hell, if I could be turned off just to get my legs changed and things, that'd be great.
Oh, we might can make that happen. Talk to a good anesthesiologist. We might could turn you off for a little while. But here's the thing. So that's certainly for maintenance type stuff. Yeah, but what if the person or the robot, the android, whatever, does something illegal, does something harmful, decides to be an evil villain genius?
Okay.
Now we're turning it off to kill it, whatever version of kill it you can think of.
So this now gets me to an interesting topic of the driverless car.
Yes.
At the moment, if the driverless car hits someone, at the moment, as far as I understand it, with my very limited brain, is if the driverless car hits someone, the owner of said car is responsible, even if it's a driverless car.
Right.
So if you've got a robot that is now becoming an evil villain,
right, and
if
there's
it's
an
a
ownership.
product and its ownership, is the owner now going to be brought up on charges?
Right. Now,
which is crazy.
now here's an even crazier thought. So say if we're, mostly robot, and you've got brain, consciousness, whatever the heck you want to think, a few biological parts in there,
Yeah.
but all of those robotic or whatever components, bionic components, whatever you want to call them, you can't afford all that. That's, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's now sold as a software as a system service. So you are leasing
Subscription
it
fee.
from a corporation, and they have actual ownership of all of your components, and you lease it from them.
Oh my goodness, yes. So then this becomes the ultimate discussion that we always have: IP.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
crazy,
I'm
right?
frightening myself in this conversation.
Right,
That's
but
crazy.
say you're leasing it, but you have full control over it. Who's responsible when you do something wrong, either purposely or unintentionally? Is it?
Yeah.
So that gets into like some really interesting areas beyond the initial interesting areas. Can we even do it? It gets to the question of
Yeah.
ultimately
Can it be
gets to the
done?
question of like, what should and what should we not do?
Agreed. I think when we refer to an AI and this level of thing, I totally agree. I think there should be limitations on autonomous AI systems which are humanoid. There's no need for it to come home and then quote me Mozart and then start telling me how depressed it is. I don't need to know that.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't need that.
That's a
But,
little bit too much, right?
a little bit. So I think on that side, yeah, from an ethical standpoint, I think, yeah, why would you do that? There's just no real need to do so. As much as there's so many movies out there that talks about that, but I think when we talk about medical application,
Right.
I think that the opportunity for AI inspired prosthesis to guide people's arms to live a normal productive life, well, the best of the productive life that they can with this, I think is phenomenal.
Right.
I do firmly think, though, that tune-ups are something that we should really always think about really
Sure.
carefully. Just because in the workplace, for example, if you flip it over and you think about exoskeletons in the workplace, we're not bringing robots in to steal jobs and all that mumbo jumbo that we've both heard many times. I think that we're actually introducing exoskeletons to save the worker, but allow them to, be productive in their overall operation. I think people miss that.
Yeah, but I'm gonna circle back on you.
Go ahead.
To use a DC term here. Um, so you've mentioned the word tune-ups, but let me put it in a different context and make you cringily uncomfortable. What's cosmetic surgery?
Yeah, that is
So
definitely
how
a
is
check,
that
man.
not a tune-up in a sense?
Yeah.
And how is this any different than that? And
That's-
if you say that's not ethical, how do you justify that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, the ethical approach of that is your person's going in, they know what they want, and then the surgeon's responding and doing it as safely as possible to achieve said outcome.
Yeah, it's like,
Um,
I love my hair, but maybe I want a little bit different color hair, so
yeah.
or hey, maybe I want to tighten up some skin here or there, or add some skin here or there. How's that any different than say, hey, I can get this chip and it's gonna improve my memory by about 10 to 20%, which would be awesome right now.
Yeah. Be brilliant.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting though, because that kind of lays out the idea of surgeons being not just a surgeon in the future.
Right.
They're a variation of a STEM area, so which all work together to deliver on something like that, which is is an interesting way of approach, but frightening at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, and the movement right now is obviously to have some sort of robotic assistance for certain surgeries, not all surgeries,
Yeah,
but also to move in the direction where the surgery could be fully automated, and literally you could have an outpatient type thing where you go in, get a tune up, some sort of addition to you, and there's no person involved besides yourself. Crazy, right?
which is crazy. It's a
Right.
frightening thought. That's very cool at the same time. I think then that the only thing I'd finally add on that is if you were to take a prostate, and again, we're in cyberpunk land right now.
Yeah, we're way
So
out
if
there.
you were
Way
to,
out there. I
yeah,
get it.
we're way out there.
We're
It's just
gonna
a,
bring
just
it back. We'll bring it back.
We'll bring it back. So if you're out there, right, and you've got a new prosthesis that's been implanted, let's say elbow to hand. It's a new prosthesis, but it has a modular function to it.
Mm.
To remain a prosthesis, is it the connection to the arm because it's going to be clippable?
Yeah.
Or can you have different arms that are still the same thing? So in other words, if you had, say, some garden tools that were that could be attached to your arm, could you go through security at the airport with the garden tool attached? Is it a part of you, or is it not a part of you?
Well, you're going to get on the whole different thing about the security at airports, but you know,
Yeah.
I get your point. It's like, how much is it a part of you? And you know, as the line gets blurred as far as the attachment, right now most prosthetics are pretty much, you know, you put them on, you take them off, kind of thing.
Take them
right?
off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, some of the research obviously is trying to push the boundaries on that, where you can now marry organic and inorganic material. So, you know, stuff with your biological body, marry those two together and create a seamless interface. Because right now it's not seamless, obviously.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that changes the whole dynamic. It's like it doesn't come off. It's a real replacement for my hand or my arm or my leg. It doesn't. It's like attached. If you want it to come off, you got to cut it off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That changes the whole question about, okay, I don't care what, you know, security or whatever it says. It's like, it's either all of me goes in or I don't go in at all, kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's really what pushed the whole topic of our discussion right now.
Yeah.
How far is too far? And when you think about this as and don't get me wrong, I should just spell out for complete transparency with us that we don't think that this is achievable right now. But it's dreamable, and that's the scary thing, because my experience so far is they wouldn't have thought mobile phones were achievable until they are.
Right. And you know, both of us have a background in engineering. We both work in technology areas. We both work in the exoskeleton world. We both work in the technical standards world. So, you know, we are somewhat going way out there in some of the sci-fi things, but you know, there is a lot of inherent potential to these things, and you can see a path to get there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that need and and I think education, moving these things forwards for people to be clear about things moving forwards. I have seen subdermal implants where people are going ahead with subdermal implants. And I now know that there is gold tattooing that you can do, which will be conductive. And it's, don't get me wrong, I love it, super cool, but it is also a little scary at the same time of that. There's a lot of people doing these things to themselves right now, and you kind of think, are they thinking about that next influence of what it could do to them?
Right. And I think that's a good kind of thing to kind of emphasize. And whether we're talking about, you know, cosmetic or exoskeletons or bionics or just wearables, everything has a trade-off. There's almost nothing out there that you can add to yourself that's going to be all positive, and there won't be something that is some detractor to that you have to be aware of.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you could think of anything out there. You could think of your fitness tracker to a watch to wearing a hat. There's something about that item that you've added to yourself that is not a positive. Whether it's just, hey, it's hot, it's heavy, it's just, it poked me, whatever. There's always something.
Yeah. And I think as we move on the podcast, for example, as we move on, I think we should be in a good position to address some of these things and see what we think.
And on that note, if you're out there listening and you have an idea of something we should address or to make up some wild stories about, leave us a note, send us a text. We'd be happy to entertain that in a future episode.
Definitely.
All right, Matt, we're going to wrap it up. Great talking to you today.
You too. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, we're going to have our other co-host, Nora, on in the future. So looking forward to that. Just getting started here. Hopefully all of our electronics and stuff will work good in the future. So looking forward to the next discussion.
Yeah, me too.